That was not the coolest countdown animation I've ever clicked, but it's the one that I clicked and I'm stuck with it. Welcome back, anybody who's tuning in here. This is DDP reporting from the closet, which is a new location for one of these streams. But we make the best of what we got, so here we are.
Reporting from the closet. That's funny.
Yeah. I'm trapped in the closet right now.
That is very fitting.
Yeah.
In celebration of R. Kelly's new album he just put out.
Oh yeah, dude's putting out.
Oh wow, he put a new one out.
He put a new one out in prison. So DDP celebrating by trapping himself in the closet.
It wasn't like the first track called like "I Admit It" or something.
Something like that.
Like my God, insanity. This is not the introduction I was having in mind, but it is what it is. So this is impromptu in the fact that we're live. It's not impromptu in the fact that we're having this discussion here. I know the title mentions trade deadline. We're really just doing kind of a roundtable here, and we might have We Talk Mavs, Cool Mavs jumping on here in a little bit as well. But we're really talking about moves that we think the Mavericks can make, whether it be trade deadline, off season, whatever. Just some moves that we think can help make this roster better moving forward, especially now with today you have the report that the Mavericks are basically looking at a 2-year window to convince Luka that they can build a competent contending team around him. So really time's ticking is the expression I was looking for. And so we're jumping on here. We're going to basically come up with a master plan, if you will, a collaborative plan of how we would try to make this team better. And then there's going to be a follow-up breakdown analysis video after the fact, basically laying out all that in this. But this is like the broader discussion podcast form of it. So we got Innie on here. Obviously, you guys are very familiar with him. We got Big Game James as well. And we've worked with TGK a couple times before, but I don't think you've been on our channel before. So salute and welcome to you, TG. Happy to have you on here.
Hey, thank you, man. Looking forward to this. So happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Let me get the chat pulled up on the screen as well, or at least get it where I can see. T Smooth TV, what's good? Life's crazy. Eric Wallace, what's up? Oh, Eastside. Yeah, we're not talking about the Bulls game. No excuses there. So move along.
Eastside, be quiet because y'all, you just worry about tomorrow. Eastside, don't say nothing. You just worry about tomorrow with them Texans. Worry about football because when y'all lose, I'm gonna find you and you're gonna run like usual. So don't.
Wait, what's going on? What's going on tomorrow?
Cowboys, Texans.
Cowboys and Texans.
Because he's a Texans. He ain't know exactly. He's a Houston fan. And the only thing he ever want to talk about is the Astros. Baseball. He want to go to a team. Anytime somebody's winning in Houston, he talks about that particular sport. If your regular football team ain't doing good, he always disappearing. So disappear.
I didn't even know Houston had a football team.
Exactly.
The Oilers?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh. Way back then.
Yeah. But let's start on this Mavs breakdown here. So let's start off first with kind of talking a little bit about what we think the key weaknesses are for the team right now. We obviously know like there's not enough star power on the team. There's too much asked of Luka. And even though Jason Kidd can say 100 times that we need to bring his usage down, we're asking too much of him. You can say that all you want, but the roster building in 5 years, I know under Kidd's watch, 2 years, not even, it hasn't done enough to actually address that problem. And you could say that the one thing that did kind of develop for that, Jalen Brunson, they still let get away. So what would we say for this roster are the major issues at the moment?
Well,
whoever wants to jump in first.
If I was to address, the biggest weakness the Mavericks have is the fact that we have way too many guys who are dependent on our one player Luka to create for him. Um, it's quite evident that it without Luka, this team is probably the worst in the league. I won't, yeah. Let's be real. about
Keep
the
it real. You
situation.
tell the truth.
Call a spade a spade. Yeah, this is probably the worst supporting cast we have around the star player, and they're so dependent on him. If you watch other teams, it seems like um, the players on the other teams, even though they might not be as good as their stars or whatever, but they're still able to contribute in more ways than just play defense, shoot threes. Now, I understand we're trying to do the whole analytical game with, hey, high value shots, layups, corner threes, whatever. I get it, but basketball is way more than that. So all the times I've been watching the Mavericks, it just seems to be this that we're way too dependent on guys hitting threes, and we saw it. If we're not hitting threes or virtually, we can't win games. Luka literally had to put up 40 points for us to even stand a chance, and that's not a way to construct a winning team. Now, for hitting threes is a different story. However, we all know, we all grew up with the I guess the saying, you live and die by the three, right? Can you really promise yourself you can win uh for playoff series, with just hitting threes, or is there another more reliable route we can possibly take? That's kind of one of the things as we're thinking about building a team around Luka. That's kind of one of the things I'm looking at is there ways we can change up the point of attack if our threes are not going in, instead of just like, all right, we continue to shoot threes even though they're not falling, and then we end up losing the game. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah.
For me, I think right now it's really on Kid to fix the way he structures these lineups. I think you could make, how would I put it? You could improve what you got right now with the way you distribute the minutes, the way you handle your starting lineups. I just think Kid is too far up in his head to be able to look past those things, because he's in it, right? So he's probably emotionally connected to these players and who he wants to start, however the case may be. I just think you don't have much to work with when it comes to trades, when it comes to signing players. So with what you have to maximize it as much as possible. So with that being said, I've been a big component of starting Green and starting Wood, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one in that realm of being able to start those players. That way you have, say, a Spencer and Tim Hardaway Jr. come off the bench. The reason I say that is because I think me and Bibbs have kind of went back and forth on this. Not back and forth, but agreed on this, where Spencer is in the game early on with Luka, and he just looks like he's not even a part of the offense much, especially once Tim Hardaway started starting. He really hasn't really had his looks. And then you saw him today. He had a more defined role where he was able to shoot, distribute, even though that's not his like prime role. He does have those capabilities to be able to kind of function in that role. So to me, Kid still starting a Tim Hardaway, Spencer, and Luka together, I don't think that's going to work in the long run, because you lose a lot of defense in that regard. So if you have Luka, Green, Dorian Finney-Smith, Wood, and Kleba behind him, which Kleba is really good behind Wood in a sense, is protecting him defensively. I think that team, that starting five, they just come out and it gives you the best chance to get off to a good start. And then once you start, cascading your players in, right? The 6-minute mark, 8-minute mark, whatever, you bring in your Spencers, your Dinwiddies, and your Tim Hardaway Juniors. It feels to me like you have a better flow. You're not killing Luka the first 12 minutes. You could send him to the bench at the 10-minute mark. So first and foremost, I think that has been our biggest issue so far this year. And besides that, until Kid can fix that and stop battling with the Twitter head coach or the Twitter suggestions, I don't think we'll be able to move forward until we can see what this roster potentially has whenever you're just holding it back that in that regard.
Right. What do you think, James?
I'm gonna agree with both of those sentiments from both of the guys. First, I definitely feel that the small ball 3-point thing is only going to take you so far. That's not no winning basketball to me. I think when
Unless
we
you're the
talked
Warriors,
about,
yeah.
I think when we talked about with the Warriors DDP, when I sent you that message and you were like, everybody tried to copy it, but it ain't conducive to what it's really real, especially with your team.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's not the way to go with the Mavericks. And just like you said, Indy, you live and die by the three, but that to me is not working. That's not something that you can go with. And then I also agree with you, TGK, because remember, I told you at the very beginning of the season, even before the season, DDP, I wanted Dinwiddie to come off the bench and I wanted to start Hardaway. That's what I wanted to do because I thought, because it's the same way with Jalen Brunson and Luka. That's one of the reasons why Jalen left, because when Luka is ball dominant, it's not no hate, but he's ball dominant. Jalen is better when he can control it how he wants. And when those two got on the court together, you could see the disconnect. You could see where Jalen was more just watching and Luka was more doing, and Jalen couldn't really create anymore. And I feel like that's what happens with Dinwiddie. That's why I said I wanted Dinwiddie to come off the bench, because you have a ball handler and a creator that's coming off the bench that can keep the flow of the offense going. When you have both of those ball handlers and you don't have the third ball handler, which we all been screaming about, even when they got to Kemba Walker, that's what made the offense with the disconnect, because Dinwiddie does seem to be more standstill, and Luka tends to create more. If you had a Hardaway starting, then you got the shooter, then you got the flow. It's the natural flow. And then you can bring the Dinwiddie off the bench and he can keep the offense flowing. And then, as you said, TGK too, you lose defense, because when you got Hardaway in there, you saw it just when they played the Bucks. Somebody's going to post him up all day, because now you're playing super small ball. You have no bigs out there at all, really. You're not starting Christian Wood at all. So Dwight Powell's only going to give you so much. He's not really going to give you too much of anything. But teams are going to exploit Tim Hardaway Jr. on the defensive side. They're going to get a big, post them up all day like they were doing, second shots, because we get killed on the boards all the time. We don't have a significant inside player that can get rebounds. So when teams do that, that's why we get beat up on the boards. And so I think another reason, I'm sorry, I don't want to be long-winded, but we don't have a two-way forward. When you see, like when we play the Raptors, they got those forwards that could come at you, attacking you. They got 3 or 4 guys that are those 6'8", 6'7" guys that can dribble the ball, take you off the dribble, and they can come down and play defense. Those good two-way guys. We don't have that. Just to Andy's point, it's all Luka. If Luka is not creating it, everybody stands around and just wait for him to create the shot for them. If he doesn't do it, then Dorian Finney-Smith, the Bullocks, they just stand around kind of like at the top of the three, and that's why we have no rebound, because once the shot goes up, who's attacking the rebounds? Because it's everybody's out on the perimeter. We have not one person that can really do it, and it's just kind of frustrating. And just like we saying, Christian Wood, he might be the only asset if we're talking about trading, because you're not giving him the significant minutes. I don't see where a player would come back and say, "Oh, I'm gonna come back and play for the Dallas Mavericks next year. I'm getting these type of points when I thought I was going to be starting. I'm getting these type of minutes." I don't see where that happens. So I think that's where we're really lacking. Defensively, don't have the size. We don't have a two-way type of forward. Guard, we're lacking coming off the bench as far as somebody who can create. So it's hard for us to get offense when Luka ain't around.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think part of the problem is with the team last year that made the run to the Western Finals. I think it was just a team, like we know from the point they were 18 and 16 or 16 and 18 last year, mid to late December. That was kind of when they turned the corner, and from that point on to basically the playoffs, the only team with a better winning percentage than them in the NBA was Phoenix. And so it feels a little disingenuous to say, like, well, they just got hot at the right time. But if you look at, like, in terms of win-loss, that feels disingenuous. But if you look at, like, what the role players started doing, like how they were shooting the ball, particularly the 3-ball, that's absolutely what happened in the postseason. The way that you had guys coming on and shooting the ball for you, it really was the Mavericks going from, like, operating at a pretty high level to kicking into a new gear that wasn't necessarily sustainable. And they had an incredible run, but the problem is that's not a roster that you bring back every year and is going to have similar success. That problem that roster had faults, and I feel like those faults were kind of exposed obviously in the Western Conference Finals. Like they worked around a lot in the postseason, getting out rebounded and getting killed in the paint, and so it's like, okay, we're going to make an adjustment on that. We're going to go get a rebounding and rim protecting center, and we're even going to, for whatever reason, promise a role to him, which I think is a ridiculous thing anyway. So your big off-season acquisition, JaVale McGee, has barely been on the floor for you this year, and when he's been there at all, he's been terrible. And so that's like, okay, well, that was the one big move we made this offseason, and it blew up in our face. Then you have guys like Bullock who are just dropping off a map and have been terrible this year. Hardaway Jr. had a fantastic 5-game stretch, but he's kind of crashed back down the last couple games now. So it's like, and I was talking with James about this just our last show. Like Hardaway, man, when he's on, it's great. When he's on a burner, he's phenomenal. The problem is you don't know if that burner is going to be a few games, or if you're really lucky, maybe it's like 15 games, like it's that. So if we got a 5-game stretch of him just cooking and now we're right back to where we were before, then it's like, oh, I don't know if I love that. We got a lot of guys, to everyone's point, that keep saying this, like, yes, everything has to run through Luka. Luka has to do everything. He has to spoon feed everybody. And that's a great way to feature your primary attraction, if you will, if you're the Mavericks. The problem is when other teams are able to kind of like key in on Luka or force other guys to beat him, you just don't have the weapons to do that. You have too many guys who are having to sit around and wait. And that's where losing a Brunson hurts, because even if Brunson wanted to go do it himself, you still had at least someone else who could create a little bit for himself. Spencer can do that a little bit too, not quite at the same level. But then you have issues as well with like your other capable players like Wood, who can create a little bit for himself at least, just not getting the opportunity to start. Like he finally starts tonight, and of course it's a night without Luka. It's just I feel like they're not well built in the parts they have, because they don't complement each other well. They're way too dependent on Luka. The options they might have that could help alleviate that a little bit are still very limited in the minutes that they're given. Obviously, everyone's very excited about what Jaden Hardy could bring to the table, but they're really being stubborn about bringing him along slowly. Tonight was a necessity to play him 15 minutes. And then even for the talent they do have, they're just being stubborn about the rotations, and they're making confusing decisions in that respect. Even in a game, drawn up plays don't make sense with this team.
They're being stubborn about a lot of things, and that's one of the more infuriating parts of this season, even more than the losing, to be honest with you. If this team was just losing, I mean, I'll be upset, but the fact that they're losing the way they are, and with the coaching decisions that are behind it, is just, it makes the games not fun to watch. Honestly.
Right. Yeah,
I feel you. I feel that.
Hey, James, you remember when we lost Igor? I kept saying I thought that was going to be something that really hurt us, and especially like drawing up those plays, end of game scenarios where we keep settling for the Luka top of the key 30-footer drifting left fade away basically for three. How many times are we going to try that this year? It worked once.
It's almost like teams know it. It's almost like teams know it now. It's almost like when it gets down the line, you can see the defense funneling to that left side. They're not letting Luka go to that left side and try to shoot that three. So I mean, that's just frustrating. But to Andy's point, man, that's frustrating, because look, you got Josh Green, right? Just like with TGK. I look at it.
You good.
I'll be trying to say it slow every time I look at it right quick. But I mean, it's like you got a player in Wood, right? You got a Josh Green, you got Jaden Hardy. Those are only our like three kind of exciting players, like to me, besides a Luka. Those are exciting players. It's almost like, man, you making this game boring. Just like you said, I don't even watch the team, you know what I mean? Because you ain't gonna really play Hardy in no real minutes. It's like You want to play him when we get blown out, or when we're playing in the game, you don't even want to let him show any kind of minutes. And we all know this is a young man's game. All these other young rookies are getting out here 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, getting real minutes. This dude played in the G League last year. Okay, it's not like he didn't sit out or anything. He played against, NBA type competition. He comes back down and goes nuts when you drop him back down there. What more does this kid got to prove to get some minutes? And then you got Josh Green, who's athletic, continue to get this dude minutes. And it was like, to me, stubborn how he got it. It's not like he was rewarded. It was like, it's almost like stubbornly because Bullock had an illness or whatever that he got the minutes. It wasn't like, okay, let's sit down Bullock finally and let's just start getting Josh Green minutes, because Bullock is playing like hot trash right now. So how about you throw some energy in there, because that's what one of your significant pieces gives. So to you guys' points, he's being stubborn with the roster because you got some guys that can do something to make this team better, but you don't want to construe it that way because I don't know, bro. Like, I was liking you last year, Jason Kidd. I was vouching for you, bro. Like, I was on your team, dude. And now it's just like, bro, I can't keep defending you, bro. I can't. Like, people are saying something about Jason Kidd, and I try to be quiet, but I'm like, damn, you're right. They're right. I'm trying to be quiet, Jason Kidd. I'm trying to be quiet, but too many of these people are saying the right things about you.
So if
have
we
you
were
ever
to,
seen?
go ahead, PG.
Have you ever seen that movie, Moneyball?
Yeah.
Where he starts trading players away so the coach can't play them, and he has to start playing like the players he wants played. I was like, at a certain point, I don't know if Nico and Kid are that close. Like, Nico, you need to start trading players that Kid cannot play. That way he's forced to have to play Hardy and Green starter minutes, because I think you need to utilize the youth you got on this team. Luka's still 23. And I think I don't know. I don't think the team you got now is going to take us anywhere, obviously.
Right.
With the way it's looking.
The weird thing, now this goes back to, being a Mark Cuban owned team. Mark Cuban essentially got rid of the championship team because they were too old, right? Have you looked at the age of this roster?
What, like how everyone's basically, other than Luka,
this
like,
roster is pretty old. Aside from Josh Green and Luka, this roster is pretty old.
Yeah,
and the fact that we're still holding on to some of these guys is like, yo, I think we even got older. Did we get older over the offseason?
Well, you signed Kemba, which is another 32-year-old.
And see, that's why I think like Hardy, Green, and Luka is going to be your core moving forward. They're your youngest players on your team, and it's crazy to say Luka's your part of that youngest part of the team.
He feels old.
Yeah, I know.
The way he feel like he's 30, the way he been playing, dog. He feel like he an old man out there. He's like, Luka's 23 for real. I thought he was 28.
He put in 80 hours a week, man.
Like, from a usage perspective, he is.
Yeah. Like, I'm all for trading anybody but those three. Give me whatever we could get. Yeah. I don't care what it is, but just start something, freshen it up. Because
to that point, then, what do you think our assets are? Like, our trade assets.
Well, and that's a tough part. Like, what are we really going to get out of the assets we have? Like, unless we're going to just trade contract for a contract. Like, I would love to move Bertans and Hardaway together for one player that equals their money. That would be lovely.
That wants them, though.
Yeah. Exactly, and it's just.
And we all know that. Don't nobody want them.
It's like,
I could get in the trade machine all day, but
and people ain't
gonna accept it.
I don't know. I think there are some smart fans out there, but there are some pretty not the brightest fans that just like, oh yeah, this trade is accepted on the trade machine. Let's do it. He's like, it's just does the money work? If yes, the trade it will have a green light attached to it. Yeah, we're right. We're very, very limited on resources and assets and stuff like that to make any major trades. Honestly, don't see any major trade this year. And if they, let's say someone's saying Miles Turner, if they trade a first round pick for Miles Turner, I think that'd be a mistake. Honestly,
big mistake.
It's to a point where we will have to load up on draft picks. So
Can you
after
do that in
this
2
year, let's
years?
say we don't have it this year, so now then we will have our 2025, right? Because
Mhm.
we don't have we don't have a 2024, or do
Correct.
we?
That's the last one that goes to the Knicks,
Okay, so we'll have to probably trade
I think.
2 or 3 of those
Mhm.
if we're trying to make like an all-in Milwaukee, trying to prove to Giannis,
Drew Holiday type thing.
yeah, that it's almost like we have to hold off on trades until we're able to get 2 or 3 first-round picks, get some seconds, pick swaps, young talent, and then whoever the disgruntled star or whatever, that's yeah, that's what the move is, honestly. This year, marginal moves. Our best asset, as much as I hate it, is Christian Wood, because I like Christian Wood. I think we are very underutilizing him. I tend to root for who I believe to be the Mavericks number 2, because I know Luka needs somebody to step up to be the pressure reliever off of him, and what Christian has in terms of talent, that is, our best bet of being a pressure reliever for Luka. However, for some reason, Kid doesn't want to play them both at the same time, even when they're double teaming Luka, even when they're blitzing Luka, and for some reason it has to be Maxey who covers the center.
Mhm.
Even though it could be Christian because he's a lot more skilled with the ball. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Whoever the hell is making these decisions, I don't know how they're coming to these conclusions. It's baffling, some of the decisions that they're making. But
Mavs Twitter, a hell of a coach, right?
I honestly,
right.
have y'all seen fan controlled football? That's where Johnny
Yeah, I
Manziel
seen
and all them.
Oh,
We
okay.
might
I
need
called
to
you.
do that for the fucking
Yeah,
Mavs.
like we call the plays, and
Yeah, we
the
might
fans
need to
call the
fucking
plays, and they have to run them.
yeah. We might need to fucking do that for the Mavs. Is that
Yeah,
and if
let's
we
do
could just run
that.
the lineups, that'd be good enough
Please,
right
oh,
there.
let's
Please
let's
the
just do
lineup.
the lineup. Yeah, let's just at least do the lineups and just let's
Yeah.
at least just do the lineup, dog. Can you just? I mean, let's just keep it real. You gonna tell me we wouldn't feel better about if you had a Josh Green and Christian Wood competing week in, week out? We still know the roster is challenged. We would know the roster's challenged regardless, but you would feel better. You would if you had
Mhm.
Hardy coming off the bench giving you minutes. If you had Green, and don't tell me Josh Green ain't going to get better if he got even more minutes. Don't tell me
Man.
he's not going to get more confidence. We talked about the forward. He can be a guy because he can play your defense, and he's a smart player. He's not like a super assist guy, but he's smart assist guy. If you understand, he
And
makes the
he's
right play.
versatile.
Yeah, he
I
makes the
just
right
don't
play.
understand. He's way more versatile than Dorian. He's way more
Yes.
versatile than Reggie. I mean,
More
those
minutes
guys,
to get his
those
people and
guys
get
were
development.
Warriors last year, and I get it. This is why I accuse Jason Kidd of favoring the guys who were on the run last year in the playoffs. But it's like,
Like he owes it to him.
I get it. You trust them, whatever, but you got to know what you have on the roster. And just because you made it to the Western Conference Finals, like how many teams have we seen make it to the Western Conference Finals and completely not do anything after that?
Flame out.
The Jazz, we've seen
I mean,
the Blazers,
it's the East, but look at the Hawks right now.
the Hawks. Yeah, there's like so many teams. Blazers, Hawks.
But Jason Kidd has been a player for almost 20 years. He should know this. That's what's frustrated with me.
That's
He
the
was a point
mind-boggling
guard.
thing.
Yeah,
He knows this. He
the
played in the
crazy.
league this long. He's got to know that you cannot go with that roster the next year thinking you're going to do something. He's got to know I got to play these guys more significant minutes. He's been a player in the NBA. How can he not know that and look at his roster and say, "Oh, I'm going to keep on sitting these guys." No, you don't have to be faithful to no Dorian Finney-Smith and no Reggie Bullock and none of them guys. You better play your young talent or it's going to be bad, and they're going to be looking at you saying, "Why is Jason Kidd still here to coach here?"
Yeah, it feels like self-sabotage at the end of the day. But like one of the things that I feel like the Mavs need to do, like as of yesterday, was the 9th. They need to extend Josh Green. I don't want another Jalen Brunson situation here. Like extend that man right now. Give him 4 years for 46 or 50 mil contract. Like I don't care. Just get him an extension already.
Well, they gotta figure some things out with their roster for sure, because the contracts that they have, it's not just that they don't have talented players or they have one-dimensional players that they struggle to make fit together in a cohesive unit. It's that they have a lot of bad contracts too. Like we mentioned earlier, the Bertans one. Yeah, he was a throw-in. You didn't really want Bertans. That was just something that you had to take on in the Dinwiddie KP swap, essentially. You also have then the JaVale McGee one's a terrible one, a 3-year deal with a player option in year 3. You have Tim Hardaway Jr.'s contract, which I know he took a lesser deal to stay here than to go play with the Pelicans, which right now looks like a very bad decision on his part. But even with that being the case, it's like that's still a bloated contract, even if it's not the biggest contract he could have gotten. It's a hard contract to move, but like as far as your most tradable pieces, you mentioned it earlier. I hate that they're kind of forcing the hand of this, but they're probably going to have to trade Christian Wood at the deadline, because I don't think you can afford back-to-back summers losing your second best player for nothing.
Honestly, you have to see how the season is going. If they can get a major turnaround by February, they need to trade. It's almost imperative that they have to trade Christian Wood and try to get some sort of draft compensation back.
Right.
And they have to. And they cannot pull another, as much as people love this trade last year, they cannot pull another Porzingis trade. They cannot pull another trade where we literally got
hope it works out.
Yeah, no, 2 contracts that lined up with the original contract.
Oh, yeah.
We can't do that. We need to get either a young flyer. We need to get financial compensation. We need to get draft compensation or something like that. We can't be, we have 2 contracts that we could possibly move in the future. Fuck that. No, we need draft compensation, a young flyer, something that we can at least be able to either improve on or flip or something.
Right.
Because as much as we love Spencer Dinwiddie and whatever, those contracts, we just got 2 bad contracts now.
Yeah, and instead of the one unmovable, you have 2 still hard to move contracts.
Yeah, 2 hard to move contracts. Yeah,
and it's like it's great that Spencer has largely worked out well for you, that you have been kind of able to resurrect him a little bit, even if it was inconsistent a lot in the playoffs last year. But it's still something where it's like that's not an ideal thing to like. You moved on from KP because of reliability concerns, and even though Spencer has largely kind of worked out now, you're still in a similar boat. And like you said, you were still on the hook for the same number of years and cumulatively like a similar amount of cash. So yeah, it's a tough spot.
We're to a point now where we're stuck, and we even traded a 2nd round pick.
And the Maxey extension in the summer frustrated me a little bit too, because I'm like, look, I like Maxey. He's going to be 34 when that contract's up, and he's already been dealing with back issues. I like Maxey. I don't love the idea of keeping him around, and so now that's just another one of those guys that we've kind of hitched a wagon to.
Yeah.
And Powell, I know he's the ultimate lunch pail guy, blue collar, all that. 3 years in the playoffs, he can't play more than 10 minutes a game. He can't be on the floor, and it's just like this doesn't make sense to me. This doesn't fit. I know that he's a great locker room guy, chemistry guy, does everything asked of him, didn't even complain or anything in the first few games when he was getting DNP'd. But it's not, we've been here for so long. We've been in this experiment so long. Like, we know what it is. And if we're still trying to insist that it's more, I just feel like we're lying to ourselves. And
I keep trying to tell people, these people who are on Twitter who are just so into the Boy Scout guys, they don't, we don't want to bring in a Kyrie or whatever. It was like, yo, like at this point, give me talent. I don't.
You definitely want something like that. I don't care. Bring it in.
I don't care if he's a can't. Like, yo, is either we can do this whole rigmarole that we've been doing for these last 5 years, and 2 years goes by, and Luka gets fed up and he leaves.
And we're going to go back in the dark ages.
And
it'll be worse than the
we're
Dark
gonna
Ages.
go
That's
back.
what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
we're gonna be right back in Tankathon. That's where we go. We like go ahead and
Bruh,
Yeah.
go ahead
you
and
gotta
put
figure it
Tankathon in your
out, bro.
favorites again if that's the case.
We're
Because
gonna be those
I mean,
90s Mavericks teams with like the setting the record for the lowest winning percentage kind of thing. Because if all you got to build around is Green and Hardy, and suddenly that's your two guys, oof,
like
it's
the
gonna get
Jazz,
dark.
yeah. I mean, honestly, like if he's wanting to go in 2 years, at the very least, his contract
We'll
will
get
be
a nice trade for him,
we better get
at least.
a fuck ton of stuff back. Like I'm talking, you can have Luka, bring me your whole franchise type shit, like back up the whole franchise to our door if we're gonna trade him.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are fast tracking into dark times if we don't do anything.
And where did James go?
I think he was frozen. There he is. Oh, there he is.
You there now?
I froze right quick, but that's all good.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
No worries. My OCD. I gotta flip you back. There we go. Yeah.
Cool.
So looking at how they've built around their superstars, like to go back to back from Dirk to Luka, it's awesome. They had that 1 year where they got to play together, but like to even have that happen from one generational to the next, that's so incredibly rare. But when you look at like how they've actually built rosters around them, they didn't build well enough around Dirk at all. And yet I look at the talent Dirk played with and I'm like, okay, they didn't do always the best job of putting around him. But when you look at some of the people he did play with throughout his career, particularly, around the title, obviously post-title, I think was horribly mismanaged. But it's like, okay, well, they brought him Kidd and they brought him Sean Marion, which was probably the biggest, other than the Tyson Chandler move, which gets a ton of love. I think the Marion one is incredibly underrated. That acquisition was so huge for them. The Caron Butler move, even though he wasn't there in the playoff run, like you look at the different things they were doing right around that window, 07, 8, 9, 10.
That's how I know That's how I know basketball. The fact that you brought up Caron Butler. Thank you.
Caron Butler,
juice.
for real.
Yeah.
Caron Butler.
Talk about the most overlooked guy on that championship team. Yes, he wasn't in the playoffs, but he was the second leading scorer up until January 1st when he went down. But anyway, I guess.
Yeah. But moves like that, like you see some of the guys that they were getting around him. It wasn't just guys that fit well, like it was like guys that could legitimately do something. Like Caron could go get his own shot, and he was a two-way stud. Marion, like the ultimate X factor, even though he didn't have the same scoring prowess he had earlier in his career with Phoenix, he was still like a lockdown defender and incredibly versatile. Like the different things that they were putting around them, around Dirk particularly, like made sense. And then the Tyson thing was just like the ultimate cherry on top. Like they're not doing anything like that 5 years in with Luka. If the best thing that we're saying that they have put around Luka to this point, like what would you say that is the best thing that they have put with Luka so far?
The best swing was KP, honestly. Sorry.
I think potentially you could say that with Wood if they would just give him the role that he actually needs.
Yep.
But they're not doing that. So it's like, okay, so KP was the first stab at that. I think Wood, at least from an offensive standpoint,
it was the best swing. Now,
honestly, the most aggressive swing. Yes, I agree with that.
If they would have stood pat, with that,
I agree with that.
I would actually much rather would have stood pat with that team and maintained our draft compensation than that.
The Dennis Smith and Luka thing?
Yeah. And this is hindsight, of course, but giving up them draft picks and then that really hurts right now.
Right.
Yeah, giving up them picks, and especially with KP over there turning up, and I knew he would. I knew he would go over there and turn up and stay healthy. It always happens like that. As soon as you leave, you hurt all the damn time in Dallas, and then as soon as you leave somewhere super healthy, just playing all lights out, 44 points, hitting things from perimeter, playing every daggone game, getting like 30-something minutes. Man, dude, why couldn't you do that here? Please, why?
Yeah,
You know what I'm
I know.
saying? It's like he had all that pressure though. I don't know what it was. I think it was just immense pressure to put him. I think the reason why he's successful in Washington, to me, I just don't feel like he's that guy. Like he's better where he's just with a supporting cast, and then you can really see him play. But when you put him as okay, he's the man. That's when I think those injuries come, because that self pressure starts happening. He starts getting hurt, but now he don't have to worry about that pressure in Washington. He can just play basketball, and I feel like that's why he's staying healthy now.
I'm glad you said that, because I think there is something to that when it comes to playing with Luka. Because, for example, like if you look at the young players, like when we had Jalen Brunson or Josh Green or even Hardy, they're not scared of that moment. You could kind of see it, It's like a eye test kind of thing.
Right.
Well, Green did, but right now he doesn't look like he's scared of that moment. Tim Hardaway Jr., how you gonna miss 3 free throws? You know what I'm saying? Like I think there's this aura of Luka, like, all right, I gotta hit these free throws because this man's doing everything for us. Like, let me just knock these down. You missed the first one. You can immediately tell like he just didn't have it. So I don't know if it's a psychological thing to play with Luka, because to me, looking at it from a hooper's perspective, if I'm hooping with someone, because when I hoop, I normally have to be in that quote unquote Luka role where I'm dishing, finding the points, getting my own points, right? But if I know I have someone on my team that can create and find me a wide open shot that I would love to have, because I could never get those because I'm always double teamed or whatever. But why is it so hard for people to play with Luka? Like, if that is the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for KP, I was when we made that trade, I was like, this is it. This is it. We're about to go back to the playoffs, about to have this big moment with KP, the new Steve Nash and Dirks, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And for that to not pan out, that when you look back at it, that's probably one of the top 10 most disappointing things in probably Dallas history in general.
I think I wonder to some extent if Mark Cuban has a little bit of cold feet now, because a lot of these trades that we've tried in
Stephen
recent
Jones
years have not worked out.
He's
Like
Stephen Jones now. He's Stephen Jones now.
Yeah,
He's
man.
scared.
you can
I ain't
you
making
can
no
look at it and
trades no more.
say
He just
that
don't
the
got his
draft
will with
day-
him though. The McCain.
Yeah,
That's what he needs.
yeah. You could look at like the draft day trade, obviously the Trae Young Luka swap, and say like, well, yeah, that worked out, but like you weren't risking a lot there, right?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
you were giving up one extra first round pick. You hated draft picks anyway. That was the first, other than the year before that, that was the first year that you actually had to do your homework and try to draft. But other than that, they've never really paid attention to the draft in Cuban's tenure as the owner or whatever.
Which is
So
infuriating.
yeah, extremely infuriating. So in terms of actual trades, you had the KP one, which was the big swing. And if it worked out, it was going to be genius. And you would be saying like, yeah, that's it. You
Yep.
now have the 1 and 1A, or at worst 1 and 2, to anchor your franchise to for the next 10 years. Didn't work. If you look before that, what would be the previous blockbuster? Are we going back to the Rondo deal? Because that was another team that Cuban was hoping to build that core around, where you were going to have Monte or Rondo, Monte, Chandler Parsons, Dirk, and Tyson as your starting 5. And that's another Mavs team that was very interesting. That was a weird season, because they were very intriguing for a while, and then the Rondo thing just completely blew it up.
Yeah.
Deflated the whole season.
Right. So that one also blew up in your face. And so I wonder to some extent if there's a little bit of reluctance now, because you have had these things where like the last 2 or 3 years, the Mavericks seem to be their names mentioned in these different trade conversations and nothing ends up coming of it, or there's weird stuff like the deal we almost had, the original Goran Dragic thing that almost happened back when he was still with Miami, where it's like, oh, it's being reported it's happening. You're like, oh, okay. Oh, wait, no, it's not happening, because there was a misunderstanding about if this one player was involved. I think it was Derek Jones, maybe. And then it came back as like, oh, no, whole deal's off now. And you're just like, what? And then you had like the confusing thing after that, where there were the reports of like, oh, the Miami was kind of confused on like who was even like acting as the GM in that case, because some of their conversations were with Donnie and some of the conversations were with I think they said like Harlow. And it's just like, I don't know, but the confusion factor is just sort of another one of those things that feels like there's always something involved with it. Where now I kind of feel like the Mavericks are almost so gun shy of making another big swing and miss that like they just don't act. They almost are like paralyzed with fear and don't make the big move. They're gonna have to figure out something though, because if you're working with the 2-year window now for Luka, then you're talking about a 2-year window between basically championship hopeful and the absolute dark ages from which you may never return. Like,
all I will ask with Luka, don't count this year. That's this year.
yeah,
Don't count
let's
this
start
year's
that
one
timer
year.
next year. Yeah.
Start the countdown next year.
Yeah, you tell them like 2022 doesn't count. This starts in 2023. You don't get to say that. You don't get to tell me that shit on December 10th.
Let's get our pick back. Then we can make.
If you don't figure your shit out by the end of the year, whoa. Let's say, tell me that in January.
But I mean, but you know what though? That's funny how it's 2 year. You know, Luka's already saying that. So I mean, we the fans out here,
and that's smart on
podcasters,
Luka,
all
by the
that.
way.
Yeah, very smart.
That's
Because now
smart
he's
on
going to
Luka.
press them.
Yeah.
That's what he's got to do. That's what he's supposed to do. I'll get some people in here because if he just sits there and doesn't say anything and just acts like he's content, they're not going to make the moves. The star has to make those press those issues because we all know the player goes, but you know the player's going to stay, the coach is going to go, especially when you got a superstar. They're always going to focus all around that. He's the guy, so he needs. Yeah, I'm cool with him saying, "Hey, y'all got a couple of years," because I would say the same daggone thing. I'm not going to keep on staying here every single year in and year out. And I see these other teams competing, and within 1 year they change around and they're starting to go to a playoffs every single year. And I'm standing over here trying to be faithful to y'all. No, y'all need to give me some players, and y'all need to give me some, and I need to see it quick, or I'm out of here, dog. That's the reality of this. The way the NBA and these sports work nowadays. You got to be able to change. You got to be able to play now. We ain't waiting no 5-6 years for no rebuild. That's not the way it happens no more in sports.
Yeah.
Did you see the way Luka walked off against the Bucks last night?
Oh yeah. His body language.
Well, what did it remind you of? What's another player that walked off after a loss like that?
Are you saying
I got one in my head?
LeBron in Cleveland. Yeah.
Yep. Like he was just like waved the. He looked so disgusted at the bench and just walked off. Didn't say nothing to anybody. Normally when he loses, he daps everybody up. Really, he showed really good sportsmanship. But he walked off, stormed off.
I'll be mad too. I mean, especially they draw up that stupid ass play where for some reason they keep giving the ball to Luka away from the basket with his momentum, taking him away from the basket with 2 seconds left.
All you needed was a 2. Like, what you should
he was like try to get, and finally there is some changing because they did put in Christian Wood at the last position.
Yeah,
we couldn't even get that for all the previous 4 attempts at the.
You only got 23 minutes that game. I just don't understand it.
Unbelievable. But I guess Igor did play a big role. But again, the decision making. Like I was saying it like, please give him some going towards the basket. Please give him some towards the basket. You set it down, screen for him, come up. I'm like, well, now you gave him another option, but the stupid ass step back 3-pointer.
Could have gave him the dirt fade or something.
Exactly. Something. Get in the post or something. Yeah.
One thing I want to clarify, just since we've said it a couple times to anyone in the chat who maybe hadn't seen the quote, the Luka 2-year thing is something that is just NBA insiders.
McMahon, right?
McMahon was the strongest voice that I've seen attached to this, but NBA insiders believe that Luka is basically giving the Mavericks a 2-year window to convince him that they can build a competent championship team around him. So it's not something that Luka or his people have said, but there is a strong belief that that's the case at this point. And I don't blame him at all for that, because this feels like they're taking a step backwards, and I understand these things are measured in baby steps.
And this flies in the face of what the GM Nico said at the beginning of the year, that they need to be patient while trying to build around Luka. And it's like, no, the fuck you don't need to be patient. Like, come on.
He's on year 5. There's no patience.
Literally, there's guys available every year that you can try to get. You know what I mean? So, this whole we need to plan powder or whatever that crap, like the new age plan powder.
Keep your powder dry.
Whatever that crap was. we're right back at it. It was the 2020s version of that bullcrap. But literally with how the league is constructed, and every year there's always a guy. There's always a guy, and what you need to do is probably not this year, next year. I don't know what the financials is like. That's not my area of expertise, but you need to put yourself in position, not just to sign the dude off free agency. I'm not gonna rely on free agency. I'm relying on the fact that we have to get ourselves the best package to get the next guy who wants to leave. Because every time there's a guy that says, "Oh, I'm out," and all the Mavs fans are like, "Can we go get him?" We don't have any assets. We haven't had any assets for a trade. Literally,
like a decade.
Yeah. Literally, it's been the same. It's been the same thing every time.
Yep.
If we do make a trade, is for a guy who was like major red flags, but let's get him in here and pay a hot dollar for, like a KP with his injury history and stuff like that. But if we can get someone like a Donovan Mitchell or Damian Lillard, even though I'm almost off that train. But there's gonna be somebody every year. There's a high priced player that will fit well. Now, if it can be an OG Anunoby, that's the
we need somebody like that's what we need. We need one of them type forwards.
That's the template of a guy that we need.
Yeah, OG would be perfect.
But you know what else, though, fellas? I feel like, as far as, free agents, when they want to come here and play with Luka, I think that's where Jason Kidd and them need to play the Josh Greens and the Jaden Hardys, because other players look at this team. And if they still see you playing Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock, them players ain't trying to want to come to play in Dallas. It ain't about Luka. It's about who you ain't even playing nobody. Like, if you play those other guys and start getting some excitement out there, are you worried about losing Jason Kidd? Because I don't know what you worried about, because your squad ain't you ain't got no squad like that. So I don't know if you sitting there thinking you're going to compete with this, because it's not going to do it. This is more of a playing type team. Let's keep it real. If you can keep the roster the way it is and the way you're playing the players the way they are, the way you're starting them, this is a play-in team. Yeah, we get hot in those games that we won. We shot crazy 3-point range, 3 points, or Luka's dropped 44, 12 rebounds, 13 assists. You know what I'm saying, man? Dog, as a player, and at Jordan, all them, they get tired of that. They don't want to do that all the time. It looks good to us fans, right? It looks good to us fans, but to a player, he gets tired of that. He gets tired of feeling like, I got to score, I got to rebound, and assist. I got to do everything. I get tired of that. And just what you were saying, TDK, when I pass it to you and miss shots, or when I pass it to you, you can't create nothing. As a player, I played the game. I'm going to tell you, I play with players that were dogs, and I play on players where I was the guy. And it's true. When you feel like you got to do everything, you get frustrated. You don't want to come down and play the defense every time.
Exactly.
You start coming down and you start getting disinterested. You'll pass the ball and kind of stand around. You don't move to the picks as much, because you're starting to get frustrated, because you know that if I pass the ball, this dude ain't really going to score the points. I don't have the confidence when I drop the ball to him, he's going to make that shot. So that's why I take most of the shots. So then he gets accused of being the ball hog, but I ain't the ball hog, because I don't have no confidence y'all make the shot, so I got to do it.
Right.
All facts. Man, you got me want to jump on the court right now, bro.
You feel me, dog? Anybody who played the game gonna tell you that right there.
I feel like a lot of the people who are commenting on the situation did not play the game, honestly.
Right.
Because Derek, he looks unassuming now, but back in the day, Derek was he was a force on the court, But we all know, I've had my times where I was the man too, playing whatever type of basketball, but everyone thinks it's fun to be that guy, but it's like, if I need to put up 40 points for a team to stand a chance, eventually it becomes not fun very fast.
Yeah.
Very fast. And I remember I was on Glow Mavs talking, and I said something like that the reason why they need to put Christian Wood in the lineup is, when everyone's keening on Luka, you need another competent player on offense. And some dude, lit me up in the comment section saying, nah, he's not good at defense. Luka's just fine creating for every fucking body. And it's like, dude, you know, like I know you probably like watching basketball and you like looking at all the numbers and analytics and shit like that, though. But look into the psychology of the game. That shit is tiring, dude. That shit. You look into your left and you're like, that dude can't dribble. Look to your right, that dude can't dribble.
Yo,
Literally, I have to create 98 out of the 100 points that we score. If I'm not scoring, I'm assisting. Like, it's tiring, dude.
if they're playing pickup, who do you think Luka's gonna pick first out of the Mavs roster?
Wood.
He's gonna pick
Right.
Wood first
He's gonna
because
pick
he
Wood
can
every time.
get buckets, and you can see it. TGK when he's playing with them, you can see it. It was early because I think Kid messed it up, but I think it was like maybe 4 or 5 games where they were really clicking. When Luka knows you can play, dog. When Luka knows
He gonna
you can
feed you.
play, he's gonna give you the ball as much as you want. He likes that. You'll see him come down court. I've seen Wood come down right next to him, and he'll just give the ball to him. Like, go ahead, take that shot because I believe you can make it. So I'm gonna give you the rock. I'm gonna take it to the hole and dump it off to you because you can see his body language because he knows I got a competent player with me. He comes more alive because I know somebody I can go to him and I can dish it. Just like I said, when we played the game, bro, when you know somebody, you said it earlier, T, when you know when you playing with somebody. I had a couple of my homeboys. One of them went to the University of Akron, and they were some ballers. And it feels good when you know you can come on the court, and it ain't just me. I can go to the hole, and I know when I kick it out, my dog gonna hit that three. I know when he kicks it to me, he knows I'm gonna go to the hole. I'm gonna make those points. Your team plays better. Your spirits lift. You play stronger defense. You come back. You play harder. You come back on harder. Play harder on the defensive end.
Try to go undefeated for the day. You know
exactly. You feel me? You get that pep. But I'm gonna tell you, when people talk about his defense, I get it. But as a top player, when that stuff ain't falling for y'all to play and they ain't doing it, bro, I don't care what you say. You ain't trying to come back playing and be this defensive guy and wear yourself out when you know you got to come back and score. I'm not coming back and playing crazy hard defense when I know I got to come back and hit a double or triple team every single time where I'm gonna get doubled. I need to conserve that energy so I can score the points. So hell no, I ain't gonna be playing defense like that. That's the truth.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm just trying to think here, like, as it relates to the roster at this point, we've been talking about how they utilize the rotation and situational stuff, how the coaching frankly needs to make a big step forward as well. I'm looking specifically, I think the issue they have with rebounding is one of the biggest red flags for me right now. That interior, the JaVale McGee thing was such a misfire. I think that they tried to patch a hole and the patch just fell straight through. Like the hole, in fact, the hole might be bigger now somehow. So they really messed that up. I think as far as looking at this year, we keep saying that they don't have a lot of great assets that they can move unless they're going to box themselves into a corner where they have to move Christian Wood. I think you're probably going to have to find something to patch that. You're gonna have to figure out how to address your front court in terms of rebounding and rim protection. That if you could just fix that will help some things. They're gonna have to figure out as well how to get some minutes for Hardy and Josh Green, because I think you need to bring those two along a lot more. If you do that for those two, stop fucking with Wood's minutes so much, and address the center position in the way that you failed to in the summer, I think that might be the best you can do for this year as we think about like the trade deadline. The summer is going to open up some other possibilities. I don't think you're really going to get out from under an albatross contract right now, unfortunately, unless you do move Wood, in which case maybe you can tack one of those bad contracts to him. But they're limited in what they can do right now. And I think realistically, they're probably just going to make amends of some kind for the JaVale McGee signing. But if that's the case, is there a specific name that comes to mind? If they were to move on, for instance, from Hardaway and do something bigger, the name that I always come back to that I think is a better version of him is Buddy Hield. But I don't know how likely that is since Indiana actually is pretty good at this point.
Yeah, I think
I want a
that
big man.
ship
I don't want
has
no more shooters. I'm gonna keep
sailed.
it real. We got. That's what the offense is. I want a big man. I want a forward. I want a two-way forward, or I want a big man. That's it. I don't want no more shooters.
Fair enough.
And I would second that too. I need someone who can. I'm looking for someone who can attack closeouts. I probably would value that more than shooting threes at that point. At this point,
Yeah. No, I'm not saying like that's the one move I make. I'm saying
yeah.
of the moves that we have as we're like looking in
Mhm.
this feed, I'm looking at a way of saying like, all right, well, they're going to want some kind of Tim Hardaway role. So here's how you get an upgraded Hardaway on a similar contract.
Yeah, I will be scared of training with a team like Pacers because they're probably looking to also tank and they want draft capital. If they don't land the first pick, they will probably want multiple firsts. Maybe even try to entice the number one person to trade for. No one's going to do it, but trade that number one pick or something like that. But
Right.
it's tough. I honestly think this year. There's no move that will take us to. I don't know if we're a playing team. There's no move that we're gonna make to take us out of that and put us into a playoff team. I think everything we're gonna do is gonna be a lateral move at this point. I'm trying to think if we were to trade a guy like Christian Wood, that would be a step backwards. But in terms of assets, that would be a step forwards to where we can take a bigger leap somewhere down the road. So, if we're thinking about a KP type trade this year, I don't think it's there.
No, I don't think so either.
It's dumb. The whole signing JaVale McGee for 3 years, $5 million is like, if you felt like you needed to patch that hole, Dwight Howard was right there. You could have gotten him for cheap. There's just so many moves you could make.
Don't you bring up that name, any, because that just hurts my soul every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you bring up that name, because me and DDP were talking about that, how you could have got a Dwight Howard, bro. He was screaming to play. He was screaming to play in the NBA. Somebody pick me up. Somebody pick me up.
Yeah.
What in the hell made you think JaVale McGee over Dwight Howard, bro?
Yeah.
What was your even thought pattern to think that JaVale McGee wouldn't help you more than Dwight Howard? He can give you the rebounds you want.
How old
he
is
can give you the defense.
34?
Right, he's 34. And Dwight is what, 36 or 37? You feel me? And Dwight Howard will still give you more in the older years. That dude, I'm telling you, he makes me so mad when he makes a shot or he misses a shot, when he just strides down the court and everybody's already there and he's still striding, pointing his hand. Dude, get back. You're 7. Let me just leave it alone because I'm gonna start getting mad at Joe. So I ain't even. That's why.
So
is current McGee better than Dampier ever was?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Hands of Stone, Dampier might have actually been better. Yeah.
Dampier.
You know who's gonna get you a rebound. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He's gonna box out for you.
I'll take them. I'll take that right now. I'll take me boards.
Sagana Job.
You're bringing up.
Is he better than McGee?
Sagana Job was much better.
Tim Duncan stopper for one game.
Give me DJ Mbenga. At least he blocked Kobe
DJ
at the rim.
Exactly. You're bringing up these names and you're striking fear in my heart because all it is time after time, and our front office has made some pretty dumb decisions.
Yeah,
and we still kind of have the same dude heading up our front office, and I don't know, man. I hope in the future we wisen up and he lets off the gas and lets whoever who's supposed to be the decision makers by title to let them do what they do. But yeah, we have almost, if you look back at the moves that we've made, it's probably weighing more on the negative than on the positive.
Dude, you could have had Dennis Smith Jr. and Dwight Howard, and they told us they didn't need Dennis Smith, and yet, because who are they reciting, right? Who are they saying? Oh, Ntilikina's there. Josh Green's taking a step forward. Now Green is taking a step forward, but he's not being used in that type of role. So it's like, oh, you got Ntilikina, and here's Franco or whatever. Like, okay, here's 32-year-old bad knees Nico, even saying horrible knees Kemba Walker. Like, you could have had Dennis Smith, and he literally has told you for years he would come back to Dallas. Like, it makes no sense, and it's frustrating as hell.
He literally said in an interview, Dallas is a second home.
Yes. Like, he's asking you, begging to come back. He's tight with Luka, and you kept saying, like, no, we don't need that. We were doing just fine when we only had 2 creators last year. It only kicked into high gear once we happened to get a third. But you don't have to have a third. And even if you did need a third, we think, like, Ntilikina or someone else is going to bring that in. Dude, no. Yeah. Like, the assessment is my biggest fear here. Like, how they are assessing talent and how they are doing this, because it just feels flawed. Like, it's not just these peripheral roster moves where it's like, could he help this roster and can he be had at a good price? Yes, it's not just those. Like, it feels like even in some of these cases where they're talking about a bigger move or something, they're just misjudging how much a guy's either got left in the tank or what his role should be and things like that. Like, again, I keep going back to the Maxey one because giving him a 3-year deal at the time I think he's 32, 31 right now.
31.
I don't love that with him having already a bad back for multiple years to be paying him to the point where he's 34. It's not that it's a huge sum of money. It's just anchoring to that where I'm like, if anything, I'm trying to kind of reduce how much we're asking of him. And I just feel like they're loading up a lot of these contracts that are less than ideal, even if they're keeping their guys and things like that. It's like, okay, fine. Do I hate the idea of having Maxey? No. Do I want to be tethered to him long term? No. And that's the kind of stuff they're doing. They're either doing these moves that just keep these guys around for a lot longer and don't really help them move forward. Maxey's not going to help you take a next step.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to remain where you are with him in terms of your front court. That's not to say that he's without value, but that value would probably be best served in some part of a trade. So they've got to figure it out, because their assessment and their analysis, their scouting is very suspect, I think, right now.
Yeah, and then I fear that too, because whatever comes up at the trade deadline, who knows which team just really falls off, the face of the planet. Then that can open up things and make things flexible for you, but you're dependent on a team that has good players to fall off the face of the planet for you to get a good player. And then for them to take on the current bad contracts we got, it's just like it's a double and triple whammy. And on top of it, the players that we would offer are like so one-dimensional that it's like, why would they need them? Unless they have a Luka where they could utilize the one-dimensional player. But I think that's part of our issue is that we have one-dimensional player after one-dimensional player. You got Tim Hardaway Jr. could just shoot threes. Bertans, he could just shoot threes. McGee, I don't even know what was his asset right now to the team.
Think he's a one-dimensional player.
It's a non-dimensional.
Real hard from the bench.
And so, like, when you look at like Dorian Finney-Smith, I had said this in a video I posted. Like, what's disappointed me with him, which I love how far he's came into the league. He doesn't have like a mid game, like even a floater. Right. Like there was a floater he attempted against the Knicks. Well, I was like, what is that? Like you haven't practiced this or tried a new move? It's just 3 and D. And so same thing with Bullock. He doesn't even have the 3. It's just I don't even think he has a defense. So it's depressing in a sense that one player in Luka, it just shows how great he is. One. But also it's like you're picking up so many players slack. Like I've always said, like Luka counts. He's like the greatest equalizer. You can have Clay, Steph Curry, and Draymond, and Luka can level them out. It comes down to the rest of your team to just pick you up a little bit, make 3 free throws, make just 2 more, right, out of 5, and you can win games. But we can't even get that, and so that's the scary part about it. Because if Luka leaves, will I still be a fan of Luka? Yes. Will I be killing Mark Cuban in the front office forever until I'm gone? Yes, because what you have in Luka is honestly in a top 3 GOAT potential with his potential.
Mm-hmm.
And if you lose that, that's gonna be the biggest stain in Mavericks history, besides making Dirk play those final years with a horrible team. So
yeah, no, I agree. I think what'll end up having to happen is we'll probably have to do a couple more of these roundtables at some point just to get a feel on this, because I feel like this has been a good talk in like what the kind of issues are with the team, with the roster composition. And I feel like the next step we'll have to move towards now is kind of getting an idea of like, okay, for these particular positions, like if we have like these 2 or 3 moves that we think that they need, silence cat at the door. These 2 or 3 moves that we need to make, we kind of need an idea of like the names, I guess, of some of these players, some of these targets in mind, and
well,
then we can.
I created a trade for you.
Okay, yeah, I'm up.
And this is, I was in the trade machine. I did several of them, and I was like, no, none of these make sense. But then I looked at the worst teams, right? The teams that have nothing to lose, they'll probably trade with us. And so I was like, where can we improve on the margins, right? And so I looked at the Hornets. They're 7-19. I'm like, man, I don't really care. They'll give away some players.
They'll give away.
And so I'm I don't know if we can get him, but I was thinking Rozier, right? We need another ball handler.
Scary Terry, yeah.
Kelly Oubre. I wouldn't mind him. And then PJ Washington. He might bring what's the name? A bundle of bricks or whatever his name is. They'll probably get back together in Dallas. Who knows? But anyway, I was thinking of getting them and shipping Hardaway, Bertans, and Bullock. But I'm just like, yeah.
If you got all 3 of those guys out the door in one move, I would applaud you.
They would. Yeah. They would. Yeah, that would be.
I'd be willing to give like some kind of draft compensation for that deal.
I don't know.
But I don't know if it could be possible.
What about T? Because I was mentioning this. You know who I've been wanting to try to pull some players from is Orlando Magic. They got all them young players over there. They got all
Carter
them young players.
Obama.
You feel me? We can pry somebody away. They ain't gonna keep all them young guys. They're gonna eventually use some of those young guys as trade assets. You know what I mean? Because they just got whatchamacallit getting ready to come back to Jonathan. What's his last name? He's been hurt for the last Jonathan Isaac. He's been hurt for the last couple years.
1,000 days.
But he's still young, and he was. If you looked at his years, he was getting better every year. Yeah, I know he got the injuries, and he's still young. Markelle Fultz, you remember how long he been injured? He's just been coming back in the lineup, and he's been turning up since he been coming back in the lineup. So they got a plethora of young players that they're not all going to keep up. Eventually, they're gonna offer up somebody. So I'm just saying that'd be somebody I would like to look at for a young player that can help the team. Because I want youth, and I feel like they got a lot of youth, and they'll get rid of some of that. So maybe we could pry somebody from there. That's just something I'm thinking about.
Speaking of the Charlotte Hornets on on TGK's with
Brittany
Luka, with Luka stating he's out the door in 2 years if he don't prove to make a move. Does that up the sense of urgency enough to be so desperate that you start looking at Miles Bridges?
I mean, depends on the outcome of his case, right?
Yeah,
I think
it depends on Cynthia too.
I think if you look at the updates on the case, it's not as I could be wrong. I have to state this because I'm on the internet. I could be wrong. However, if you look at the new updates, I was getting some stories about how crazy that girl is as well, and then also with the case, I think it's come to some sort of conclusion where he's not serving jail time. Look, Mark Cuban, I get it. You want to be on the good side of history all the time. However, what do they say for all those crypto commercials? Fortune favors
your ass is gonna go broke.
You might have to go down this road, man. You might have to do it. Miles
Oh, it
Bridges.
says voids jail time and felony domestic violence plea. Huh. I mean, you can look at Primo too.
Look. I'm the type of person, and I know, if I said this on Twitter.
With the Cowboys, we got Greg Hardy that one time.
Exactly. And I'm the type of person like, look, I'm in the business of competition at the highest level. I cannot be, if I'm looking at it straight at that, like that, sometimes PR and all that, it's a fluid concept. You know what I mean? Is I can't be so affected by the PR backlash when I know that all we have to do is win a couple of games and no one gives a crap anymore. You know what I mean? If Greg Hardy came back and was putting up numbers that year with the Cowboys, and the Cowboys were playing very well, no one would care about what Greg Hardy did before. Right?
That's true. If he was turning up,
he helped us have a good defense.
They would have turned a blind eye.
I mean,
they would have turned a blind. We've seen it time again.
Michael Vick came back after fighting dogs and going to
Kyrie came back. And anybody could come back.
Up numbers, and no one cared anymore. Look, I know
we all make mistakes.
That Mark Cuban won't do it because Mark Cuban has branded himself as this virtuous individual that he doesn't want to do anything wrong. I don't know what he's trying to cover up. Anyway,
that's
like you ain't done anything wrong, Mark.
I feel like there are all kind of bones in that closet.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother story. I feel like there's all
like
kind of bones.
You got to keep your team, Mark. Be grateful.
Yeah, but
kind of bones.
It's almost. I think Luka. I think the fear of losing Luka should get you into
some chills down your spine.
Yeah, it should be like, all right, let's open Pandora's box and let's see what I can get myself a good talent for at a reasonable price. I just got to withstand the PR. That's it. If that's the price I got to pay.
Yeah.
TGK, what happened, bro? What happened to your audio?
Right, I know, right? You're choppy. Chopping out. Yeah, it's like
yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah, unplug it, plug it back in.
James, your
mic. Oh no, he's gone.
He said what?
Okay, never mind. I forgot you have your handheld. Yeah, because you were talking. I was like, oh, we lost James too. Like, what is going on here? Yeah,
that means it's time to go. That means
yeah,
it's time to go.
It is
because it's midnight over here, y'all. I love y'all.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, we got pulled into a tangent a little bit, but I'm trying to see. He's
think
okay,
on
he's
that, man.
Back in.
Think on that.
There we go. All right, how's the sound?
Say something, T. Oh, you're a robot now. It's time. You're a robot now. Just stay in though. I'll go out.
I'll do your promo for you. Everybody on the chat. Before we leave, I want you to go on YouTube, subscribe to TGK TV. Please. He puts up some fire Mavs content, way better than all them locked on nonsense talkers. All them Mavs Moneyball has been a little better as of lately. But look, there's some people who will speak facts on the state of the Mavs, and you got 4 of them right in front of you, right? I want you to follow TGK on Twitter. Is it TGK TV? No, it's at that Garcia kid. Every time I try to tag you, I always forget your freaking, because I'd be like TGK and it'd be like, give me a list of all these people who are not you. And I'm like, I don't freaking like, what's his name again? I remember now. That Garcia kid. Follow Big Game James. Is it Silver and Blue on Twitter?
We got rid of that. Big Game James now, baby.
Big Game James, okay.
Isn't it your handle though is like at Yates James?
Yeah, it's at Yates James. But as soon as you type in Big Game James, it should come up.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then, of course, the Dallas Prospect, where you'll find DDP and myself, which is just my name. Look, it's time to bring the real back in Mavs fans because we're being led astray. We're being led by these podcasters and guys who have never played the game of basketball or just looking through it through a damn algorithm, numbers, and all that nonsense that doesn't translate exclusively to wins. Right? We literally have guys telling you they're bragging that we're winning games while losing the rebound battle. Was like that's not something to be bragging about. Like that is one of the reasons
Not
why
as
we
a
lost.
regular game plan.
Yeah, exactly. Like they literally, sorry, but it's to that point where it's like those guys do not know the game. They don't know the game. They watched it. They probably understand that a 3 is worth more than a 2. Congratulations, you can count. But the game is much more complicated than that. It's not played on paper. It's not played on spreadsheets. People are not spreadsheets. This is not 2K where you can just, if I know how to shoot with Tim Hardaway, I can never not make or not miss a shot with Tim Hardaway because I'm just good as no. This is real life basketball, and so we need people to speak truth about what the state of the Mavericks is. And Derek, James, TGK, we have the Mavs Outsiders. We have Glow Mavs. They've been doing a fantastic job. How have I know they've been doing a fantastic job? As of right now, we're not having fun covering the Mavs. We're not having fun. Even there's a game where they won, and I was just like, it still wasn't what it is, right?
Yeah.
Because the decisions made along the way were dumb, and we didn't just give into the hype of the fact that we won. It's like if you continue on with these decisions that you're making, it's going to result in more games lost than won, right? And that's what happened. We still made these same decisions, and we experienced a ton of losses. And I think the Mavericks fan base have gone to the lowest point that it was since the Luka draft pick, and his result is because of these decisions that our coach is making. So we want people to rise up. Well, I'm gonna speak for myself, not for you guys. I want people in the Mavericks Twitter, YouTube atmosphere to really rise up and really speak on what the hell is going on with the Mavericks, because I don't know if it helps or people catch wind of it or whatever, and that can sway decision making. But damn it, I have to believe that can make some sort of change. And so here's some people that are speaking that stuff and that you need to listen to. Anyway,
for sure. And like I said, we'll do some more of these. We'll keep talking, and we'll bring in a couple other people as well, because ultimately what we're trying to do with these roundtables is put together our basically collective plan for how to make this team better, and at the junctions of like what we can do this year, the deadline, what we can do in the summer, and then maybe we'll look further than that, like a 2-year plan or 3-year plan, something to that effect, how we think this team gets there. But we're going to keep working on this, and once we get basically this plan in place, we're going to do a fully produced video breaking down everything for you and the why of it. This is just kind of like almost, we did this live, but it's almost like a raw behind the scenes thing as we're having these discussions in real time. So stay tuned. We'll have more. Thanks for everyone who tuned in. Salute to you. Subscribe to everyone here, and we'll be back soon. Till next time, guys. Peace.